morning, good afternoon, good evening. I hope you're very well. This little recording is all about training in the future. I believe this is how we are going to communicate in the future. You're all experiencing the future right now. I genuinely believe, whether it's on Zoom, Google Hangouts, FaceTime of some description, or any of the other platforms, Citrix webinars and so on and so forth, this is probably how the future is going to look in terms of online meetings, conversations, training, etc., etc. So this two-dimensional screen is probably what we're going to experience much more of. So welcome to the future. I'm sure you've all been doing this for the last 2-3 weeks, but I suspect strongly that it's going to be more of this in the future. Yes, we will always have the traditional one-on-one, one-to-classroom based face-to-face training sessions. But in the meantime, and I suspect strongly in terms of reinforcement sessions, this is probably how it's going to look. Very excited to be here and sharing this with you. It is only going to be about 10 minutes. This one is specifically about listening skills. Why? Because my experience in the last 3 or 4 weeks of online meetings like this, many people interrupt each other. Many people want to say stuff, and not many actually actively listen or listen appropriately to what's being said and to whom is saying that. So this is really just 12 tips in terms of how we could possibly listen better when it comes to online meetings, trainings, virtual meetings, working remotely, whatever you want to call it. Here we go. So 12 tips to become a better listener, a good listener. Number 1, position yourself mentally. In other words, stop what you're doing and actively listen. Repeat or rephrase whatever that person has said so they actively know that you've heard what they're trying to say. Number 2, make that speaker feel comfortable. What do I mean about that? Well, very straightforward. Pay attention. Look at them when they're talking to you. Listen actively, withhold any judgment, gesture appropriately with your hands, tilt your head a little bit, smile, and definitely make eye contact, and some kind of verbal trigger, some kind of verbal indication or signpost. So yes, please go ahead. As I understand it, you were saying, etc., etc. Those sort of things. Number 3, tune into the spoken message. Be receptive and positive about the message, whatever the conversation is about. Initially, always start on a positive note. We all know there's enough negativity out there. So be receptive, understand that what they're saying is important to them, and be receptive to it. Empathize. In other words, feel what they're feeling. You've no idea what's going on in their background. They might live in a small apartment with 3 teenage children and 2 dogs. If that's the case, they're having a pretty tough time at the moment. So feel what they're feeling and be patient. 4, be patient. Speaker may be long-winded. Apart from all the background stuff going on, they may be the sort of person that has a wandering mind. They may be collating their thoughts. They may be long-winded in the way they express themselves. So don't cut across, don't cut off what they're saying, don't interrupt. Let them finish, and then perhaps consider what they've said and come back with an appropriate response. Number 5, don't interrupt. If you interrupt, we all know it's rude, but if you're interrupting online, it gets that little bit more complicated. And why? Because there's usually a delay in transmission. Not everybody's Wi-Fi is the same speed. Not everybody's laptop or mobile device is the same kind of speed. So give it that extra 2-3 seconds before you interrupt is good practice anyway, but is even more important when it comes to these kind of online meetings. Listen, even if you know what they're going to say or where they're heading. Otherwise, it will reduce the speaker's confidence in saying anything to you if you continue to interrupt or make them feel like you know what they're going to talk about. Number 6, concentrate consciously. So don't have other stuff going on. Don't have a side conversation with somebody else. Don't fiddle with your mobile device or twiddle the radio or whatever it is you might be doing, writing notes which are not to do with the meeting that you're having. So turn off any other distractions, radio, podcast, other laptops or mobile devices, or turn them away. And you make sure that the speaker, as a speaker, that you're listening and not being disrespectful to whoever's speaking at the time. Check your temper. By that, I mean, don't be rude or angry. As I say, there's enough negativity out in the real world at the moment. So if you are a little bit short with people, they may not necessarily want to contribute anything in the future. So express your differences politely. Politeness goes a huge way, and accept mistakes generously. We all make mistakes. So in this virtual world, have a little bit more patience. And if people are making mistakes, give them a little bit more slack. Be gentle expressing your criticism. In other words, turn it into a kind of a suggestion. May I encourage you to? Have you considered this? Rather than say, no, that's wrong. You shouldn't have done that. This was done incorrectly. Soften it a little bit. Use a language that's appropriate and move the conversation along with encouragement. Number 9, appreciate and encourage. So listening does not equal silence. So don't misunderstand that listening means that you have to listen in silence. You can make appropriate sort of grunting noises. Yes, I understand. Well done. Yeah, got that. Whatever sound that you want to make, whether it's a phrase or a little word, just helps them understand or appreciate that you are listening. Smile, nod, make some eye contact, cheer, gesture, facial expressions, etc. Make sure the eye contact is to the lens right in the middle, not to your laptop. Makes a big difference. Number 10, ask questions. Questions direct the talk. So keep the conversation flowing by asking open-ended questions. If there are specific answers that you want, then of course ask closed questions. It helps the speaker organize the message they're trying to articulate and get across. And questions can be very encouraging. It does keep the conversation flowing. So ask questions. Be sincere in your reaction. Express open and honest reactions. Be tactful and honest, and sincerity requires self-confidence. In other words, don't falsely gloss over a response just to get through to the next point. If you have to say something that's a little bit more brutal, let's say, or honest, then be honest in a nice way. Be tactful and be more diplomatic about how you say something. Ultimately, that will get you more respect than just glossing over something, and they will feel that you're glossing over it. So tell the truth, but say it in a nice way. Number 12, cordial close. In other words, polite reconciliation. Diplomacy is paramount, and keep the door open. If there is a misunderstanding or something that's getting a little bit more heated, just make sure that you agree to disagree, but leave that door wide open. So if you have to revisit this conversation, whatever it is, that the door is open for the next steps. And the bonus point number 13, there was not 12, there's actually 13, is basically review and summarize. Make sure you've got some final questions. I call it a mop-up question, so that you record what's been said. Make sure you talk about next meeting time, place, and agenda, so you're all on the same page and you all know what's been said in this meeting before you move on to the next one. So the vast majority of us are either visual or auditory. Some of us are kinesthetic, but it's a small proportion. And in any case, we are all a mix of all of those. But as I say, the majority are visual or auditory, which means in terms of a two-dimensional platform like this, if you are able to convey the message that you are listening in some shape, form or other, it will land better, and that person's respect for you will go up. They feel like they've been listened to, and if they feel like they've been listened to, they're much more likely to fulfill their obligations for you. So I hope that's been really helpful. My name is Laith, coming to you from the UK. We are, as I said in the earlier, that we're in the middle of the lockdown. But all I have to say is please look after yourselves, be safe, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.